Hi, guys. Sifu Mark here. Thank you very much for tuning into Wynter Tai Chi Chats. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share, and remember to throw a comment so I can know what you're thinking, whether you like the content or not, or who else you'd like to see me chat with. All right, so for today's chat, it's with one of the most influential figures in modern day Tai Chi. He's done a lot to get to that point, as he was a former member of the U.S. national wushu team and also a former international Tai Chi champion. He's a very accomplished author as well, having been published by YMAA Publications, and he's produced many videos on the subject of Tai Chi Chuan. Being the founder of Tai Chi Fit, he has found numerous ways to successfully incorporate Tai Chi into daily fitness regimens accessible to everyone, everywhere. Please welcome Sifu David-Dorian Ross. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well, thank you, Mark. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to get to know you.
Thank you very much for agreeing to come on to my podcast, sir. I cannot wait to get into your mind. So let's go ahead and get into that interview. I know you got very limited time with me, so let's go ahead and do it. So if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into the martial arts, Sifu?
I had just gotten out of the military. I was in the Navy, and I wanted to go back to school, and my brain was like mush after 4 years. I don't think I hadn't read a book in 4 years, and going back to college, I was like kind of freaked out about it. And so how can I restart my mind? And I thought to myself, you should learn to meditate. Meditation is like push-ups for your brain. And I was like, okay. And so I bought a book on how to meditate, and I started to try the meditation exercises in the book, and I was a complete and utter failure. I could not sit still that long, could not stop my inner dialogue. I was born so long ago, they didn't have a diagnosis for ADHD, but today, that's what I would have been categorized as. So anyway, I'll go back to the book, and there's a chapter in the book on moving meditation, and it talks about Tai Chi. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of this. This is 1979, right? So it's like, I've never heard of this Tai Chi thing before. But it sounds so cool. It's like I had watched Bruce Lee, I'd watched, David Carradine, and I was like, it's got Kung Fu, it's got meditation. I got to try it out, right? And so I was signed up for, college. I was selecting my classes, and one of the requirements was to take a PE course. And I'm looking through the PE courses, and there's Tai Chi on the list. This is in San Francisco. It's probably like the only city in the country at that time that would offer a Tai Chi class in the curriculum. So I signed up for the class, and I show up on the first day, and this little Chinese lady marches out, and she, the whole class, she only says three things. The first thing she says, line up. And so we all line up, and then she goes, follow me. And that was it. That was the only instruction we got for the whole thing, just follow me. And so we're going through these movements, and there's a lot of people in this class. It's a huge class. We're going through these movements. I am so lost. By the way, I usually, when I tell the story, I have to give the little background. My entire life, to that point, I was the before picture in the fitness ads, right? I was never did anything physical. I wasn't an athlete, nothing like that. And so I'm doing this class on the first day of the Tai Chi class at school, and I'm so bad. I'm so lost. I can't do anything. But, after about 5 minutes into it, something weird happened, something very, very strange. And for a long time after this happened, I didn't tell anybody about this. I didn't tell the story to anybody because I was afraid they're going to lock me up. The first thing that happened was I started to get tunnel vision. So I started, I couldn't see out of my periphery, and then boom! My vision opened up, my sight opened up. Colors were so bright, light was so dazzling. I can remember this is almost 50 years ago now. I can remember the bricks of the courtyard, like what the color was and the moss, and like I could see it like it was just yesterday. And I started to realize I was moving my body in a way I'd never moved before. It's like, I don't know whose body this is or who's in this body. It's like, I'm not familiar with this. It felt so good. You know, it was like elegant, but powerful, like amazed. And then I had this, what I now call a memory of the future, which is the crazy part that I thought people would lock me up for, right? It was like I remembered this thing. It was in my head. Like, you know, I remember my 7th birthday. I was like, I have this memory, only it hadn't happened yet. And the memory was that I would do Tai Chi for the rest of my life, which was crazy because I'd never done anything long-term, you know. And I was like 21. And the second thing was that I would someday be a famous teacher. Again, crazy, maybe even crazier. Like, this is my first day of Tai Chi. Like, what am I thinking? But it was there, like a memory in my head. Time was not existed. Like, there was no time in this space here. It was just like all happening. And then it ended. Right? And it probably lasted like 3 seconds. I don't know. But like I said, the sense of time doesn't exist in that state. And the rest is history. Like, I've done Tai Chi like ever since then. And I didn't pursue becoming a well-known teacher. I just wanted to develop a body of work. So that was how it started. And then, so I continued to study, and I was very fortunate that like the first teacher that I had, that was the wife of Sifu David-Dorian Ross. So David-Dorian was the guy who brought Guangping style to America. He was maybe one of the first people in the first Chinese masters in the U.S. to teach Westerners, you know, teach non-Asians in a school. And I was very fortunate to study from him toward the end of his life. So if I had waited like a couple more years, it wouldn't have been possible. So I was able to do that. And a few years later, I had the opportunity to start working with Anthony Chan in the and Bryant Fong. You know, you might know Bryant a little bit better than Anthony these days, but they were the coaches of the U.S. Wushu team, and they're based in San Francisco, Chinatown. And so I joined the group there. Still, like, I'm just a beginner. I didn't know anything, so I was just studying Wushu and I was so. I'm not a big guy at all, right? But I was bigger than all of my teammates because they're all little short, skinny Asian kids, you know. And I was so clumsy at all the other Wushu stuff. They said, you know, you need to just be our Tai Chi guy. I was like, okay, that's fine with me because I like Tai Chi better anyway. Like, right. But I did, you know, it broadened my Tai Chi knowledge because of being required to study different weapons and different, you know, northern styles, southern styles. And so you get all that education in Wushu training. And then it gave me a good perspective from what my Tai Chi movements were doing. And it also taught me a lot of discipline. As disciplined as many martial arts schools think that they are, I would go to visit a school and watch them do their warm-ups and I'm like, you guys are just weak. And I don't mean that in a superior kind of way. It's just that old school Wushu from the 70s, endless hours and hours, like 5-6 hours a night of drills, right? and nothing else. I'll tell you, maybe another time I'll tell you a story about the first time I went to China, and you know, I went to learn a new routine, and the coaches wouldn't teach me a new routine for like 5 days, and just had me 8 hours a day doing drills until they were satisfied that I could do it.
I got a quick question. Because you said you had started with the Guangping Yang style. That is that's a traditional route. But then you also went to got onto the national wushu team, and you had said that they had told you to just be their Taiji guy. So my question is this: was wushu Taiji like how it is today back then?
No, not a bit. When I went to the 2008 U.S. team trials to go to the Olympics, in between the time I retired in 1995 from competition, and in between 1995 and 2008, they had put in all of the nandu, the kicks and jumps and everything. The difficulties is what they call that. I know why they did it, right? But it's stupid. and it is a sticking point in Chinese, in the Chinese point of view about martial arts in the West, and it is it slows down the sharing of martial arts across different cultures. So this came really home. I used to work with Jet Li. I worked in Jet Li in 2015. And he had a project online, and I worked with him, did a lot of filming for him and whatnot. But they had the same kind of sticking point, and that is they don't understand what appeals to Westerners. So the objective of putting all the Nandu into Tai Chi and the rest of Wushu is to make it more visually exciting. So if you like happen to tune into the Chinese version of ESPN and there's the Wushu competition as the program, all these wild kicks, and then the girl lands on one toe and just falls like a snowflake to the floor and then rises like a phoenix up again, and it's like, yeah, what a great idea. It's like it's wonderfully visually exciting. Nobody gives a shit, right? So in the US and elsewhere, outside of a few crazy people like you and me, right, who would love that, right? Everybody else is like, oh, forget about it. like does not have a wide mass appeal. And because it does not have a wide mass appeal, all this investment in putting all this difficulty in and training coaches and putting this into the rules and all this kind of stuff has zero benefit towards your goal of spreading the art more widely. And they want to spread the art more widely for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the bigger the sport, the bigger the sponsorships. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
makes sense.
So they really want to do that, and the strategy that they employed for that, it was just dumb. It was just like it didn't work.
Right? What you had said is very true. You're like, I know why, but why they did it was stupid. And you know what? I do have to agree with you. I do agree with you. So let me take you back more to your traditional route here, right? So you had said, you started with the Guangping Yang style. So if you don't mind me asking, what is that?
So the story is that when Yang Luchan finally left the Chen family compound, he did not go directly to Beijing. He went to his home village, Guangping, or whatever the better pronunciation of there's like 2 or 3 versions of the names of the places or whatever. And when he stopped off at home, he taught like his beta test, I think, in a way. If you think about, again, Mark and I were talking before the interview started, for those people who are watching over here on YouTube, and I was telling him a little bit about, I have a habit of sort of trying to put myself into the position of some of the ancient masters and try to imagine what it was like to have to make the decisions that they made in developing their style, like what led A to B to C. And so if you think about that moment in history, Yang Luchan has just left the Chen village where he's been apprenticing to the Chen family and learning the Chen style this entire time. He's been sent around the country to participate in, life or death matches, representing Chen Clan, by the way. And so, and being undefeated in all of those matches. Now he's got a chance to like freelance, and he leaves and he's going back home, and he wants what he's going to be teaching to be a little bit different. He can't call it Chen style because his name is not Chen. You have to think about the historical period that we're in there. It's not okay for him to teach a Chen style when he's not a member of the family. So he's got to come up with his own new thing here. And as he thinks about it, he's going to, I think I'm going to modify the movements in this particular way. It's still going to be really powerful. It's really direct. That's why in Guangping style, there's a lot of sort of heavy emphasis on a lot of them, but they're supposed to be anyway. And so this is his beta test. And so he taught a bunch of people in the village, and those are people who, carried Guangping style, down as a lineage. And then he left and he went to Beijing and he had a new style. He had, his launch version, which is now, the sort of the young family that we see today.
Okay, so Guangping is more of the beta test of changing from the Chen style to his own thing.
Right. You gotta also, put yourself into that position. You're fairly young. You know that you've got to make some changes, but you don't quite know that you don't have a finished product yet. Right? This is something that, by the way, in martial arts, the finished product takes centuries. And so there's never a point at which you say, oh, well, boom, that's when Yang style happened. So you look even at Yang Chengfu, and throughout his life, he would live in different parts of China. And in those different parts of China, he would teach a group of disciples. And then he would move and he'd live in a different part of China and he'd teach a bunch of new disciples. And then the disciples got together and they're like, your shit looks nothing like mine. Like, why and it's from the same master, from the same teacher. It's like, because his style was not a finished product yet. It was, like he was still working on it. So here's Yang Luchan. He doesn't have a finished product. He has some ideas, obviously, and he has some genius. That's established. That's why he's the master, because he had true martial genius. And so he's going to leverage that genius to develop what we now call Yang family style.
I'm trying to put some comparison here. So like, I'm a big martial arts historian. So let's go with a different martial art. We're talking Chinese. Let's go with Japanese, for example, like Morihei Ueshiba. The lineage of Aikido from when he was younger is a lot more brutal. It's a lot harder, a lot stronger, right? Whereas post-war, in his 80s, 70s teaching, it's a lot softer, a lot circular, a lot more simple. Right, so I guess that would be the Guangping would probably be more like Ueshiba in his younger days, would be Yang Luchan in his earlier starting out time, being Guangping being more hard, being more practical. What would you say?
Yes. I wasn't going to embellish that at all. It's like, if you look at Guangping style and watch Guangping form, what I would recommend is that you always watch for intention, like look for intent. So forget about what the movements look like and how somebody does a move. And Mark and I were chatting about weight distribution on a foot, in an empty set. Like, forget about all that for a second. Think about intention. So as I look at the intention, the yining, as you watch each movement done, you say, can I still see the same intention between styles? Right? And then you might say, yes, but in this, modern Yang family style, it's not as explosive as it is in Guangping. not the movement, the intention.
Hmm. Very good. Very good. So Guangping is more explosive. Is it effective for self-defense?
Fuck no.
That's a very honest answer. Thank you.
Like, it's ridiculous. So partly because the way that we look at, so many different things. First of all you guys who are watching this podcast, who are now like on your keyboards going, this guy's a dick, right? So hold on a second. Let me flesh this out a little bit. So there's a couple of reasons why I would say that Tai Chi is not effective for self-defense. Number one, remember Tai Chi, we start to say things like it means the ultimate martial art, which is not necessarily an accurate translation. But okay, let's go with that. Why is it the ultimate martial art? It is because it is the hardest martial art to master if you are sticking with Tai Chi. Like a lot of people that I see, who are doing Tai Chi self-defense is like, okay, you stop doing Tai Chi at some point, in your martial applications, and now you're doing stuff. It's legit, but it's just not Tai Chi anymore, right? The overriding principle in Tai Chi as a martial art is softness overcomes hardness, right? So if you have suddenly tried to do hardness to overcome hardness, or let me like take this and twist it into a pretzel, it's like, that's not the intention of Tai Chi. That's something else. It's a different martial art approach. But to master the ability to always use softness to overcome hardness means that in the beginning, you get beat the fuck up a lot. Right? It's a high level of skill to be able to overcome hardness with softness. And for the longest time, you're terrible. And so, as being terrible, you keep trying it, and everybody's like beating you at, in the fights and everything. It's like that really takes a lot of dedication to stick with it. This is why so few people become masters of Tai Chi as a martial art. Is because you got to be crazy. Look at William C.C. Chen. William C.C. Chen is a master, and I've touched with William C.C. Chen before. It's like, dude is scary, lethal, right? With almost no effort. And he's a tiny little man, right? And he's got all this chi power in this little body. But how did he get there? He got there because he was trained mercilessly by his teacher, right? He had to go, his teacher told him to go out in New York City and join an Italian boxing gym and learn to box. This little tiny, he looks like an accountant, he's like, and he took it and he took it and he took it, right? And now, like, he's mastered it. Nobody does that. Nobody in their right mind does that. I'm not calling William C.C. Chen crazy either. I have mad respect for him. I love that man. But like in wide general terms, like you have to be a nut to put yourself through that. And so to use Tai Chi effectively, you have to train for it. You have to train for it under real life circumstances, like an MMA fighter does, right? You have to like be willing. This is why the Tai Chi masters in that famous video in China got his ass handed to him, like, because he doesn't train like that. Like push hands is ridiculous. Like there's never, ever in your life going to be a situation where a guy in a bar pushes hands with you. Right? And so the idea is like, oh, push hands is going to train me in martial abilities is ridiculous. In other areas of science and industry, they call it the specificity principle. So if you want to specifically be good at something, you have to train in that thing. You can't train in the violin and think you're going to drive a race car. Like it doesn't transfer. So you have to be specific about the skill. And so in martial arts, if you want to train for self-defense or fighting skill, you have to train with somebody who's trying to hurt you. In Tai Chi, that's really tough because all the people trying to hurt you is like, you can't defend yourself effectively for the longest time, right? Because all those Tai Chi moves that you think from this, like, they don't work until you know how to do them correctly, right? Until you figure out this is how you get softness. And the other thing that I haven't met anybody. I haven't met anybody. I'm sure that there are lots and lots of Tai Chi masters and Tai Chi teachers and Tai Chi experts out there who do know this. I just personally haven't met anybody. So I haven't met anybody doing push hands, who wants to do push hands or does push hands, who has understood that what it says in the Tai Chi classics and what it says in the Tai Chi history is that the purpose of learning to push is hua, neutrality, right? Is neutralizing, not overcoming, not pushing the other guy, not, blocking everything, right? And defending. That's not what it says. It says hua, neutral. And neutral means that there is an equality of forces. They're just not going anywhere, right? They've come to rest, right? So people want to push hands with me these days, and I'm like, no, I don't want to, because you want to win, right? Because you're a human being, and that's what human beings would like to do, right? But, that's not Tai Chi anymore. Right? The moment that you want to win, you have strayed from the evolved principles of Tai Chi itself. It takes a long time to get over yourself and not want to win.
That's absolutely true. So as soon as the aspect of wanting to win, as soon as the competitive aspect comes into play, it's no longer Tai Chi.
Right.
All right.
If you're honest about what it is that you are studying. So if we make a claim, I am studying Tai Chi Chuan. I am dedicated to, the whole concept of it, right? Then when you read the Tai Chi classics, when you listen to the words of the old Tai Chi masters, and you also study the principles of yin yang, right, from classical Chinese culture, then you go, Tai Chi is about neutrality of yin and yang. And every time that I do something different, I'm not doing Tai Chi anymore. I have become dishonest about what I'm studying. Right? Why is it? Because that's why it's called Tai Chi and not something else. Right? Tai Chi Chuan is not called, it used to be called something else. Chen Chuan, Chang Chuan. We used to call it, those different names, and they had different meanings and different intentions. But once we started calling it Tai Chi Chuan, right, it means yin yang, means harmony.
Understandable, my friend. That is a very good answer, and it was a very, very honest answer about if it's effective for self-defense. So that's a great one right there. There's a great one right there.
We also got to remember, this is the other aspect of it, but you got to turn your Tai Chi image into a movie and not a snapshot, not a photo. So we take a photo of Tai Chi at a certain place in time, or maybe it was effective, and you go, yeah, but it's 2025 now. People have changed, times have changed. If we take this snapshot of what Tai Chi is and you try to bring it in the 21st century, it's like, okay, it doesn't work as a martial art because everybody else is better now.
That is a very good point.
The car that won Daytona Beach in 1959 still could not even compete with the cars running Daytona Beach today.
true. This is true. This is very, very true. Yep, yep. I completely understand that. So, David, let's go ahead and move right along. We have some more questions to get through. So, moving along the lines in getting to your psyche, okay? Because this all ties in at the same time. So, Kung Fu is a term, right, that literally means a skill acquired over time, right? So, knowing this, what do you believe is the hardest part of developing Kung Fu?
So interesting. Kung Fu doesn't actually mean over time. Like it doesn't, in the words, in the translation, it's just that's usually the best way you get there, right? Once you're down the path, the thing is, that's terrible marketing, right? Like I'm gonna start saying, like, I'm gonna make you the master of this. You're gonna, like, this is gonna be amazing to have this skill level, but it's going to take you the rest of your life. It's like this terrible marketing. It's like, no, can I take a pill? Can I buy a book? Like what? Right. So that's not what it means. It means, the actual strict translation is hard work. Gong is work, is effort. And Fu means the high level, very high. So Gong Fu is high level work. And that high level work will result in things like development of skill, the mastery of principles, mastery of self, right? This is what Gong Fu gives you. And a lot of times I think people, so Gong Fu has a set of virtues, or what we call a martial code, right? The Wu De, the martial code for Kung Fu. And it goes up through all this list of things, 10 things that are considered to be what the primary virtues of a great martial artist, a great Kung Fu person would be like. And there are things like loyalty and honesty and righteousness and all this kind of things like this. And so it's self-development, development of character. And this is the thing I think a lot of people either don't acknowledge or sort of like pretend that they're not doing it really well. Like in order to really do Kung Fu, if you like, I like Kung Fu, I want to study Kung Fu, I want to be a Kung Fu person, then that means that you have to do both the external development and the internal development. And if you're not doing your internal development, you're not a Kung Fu person. You're a jock.
To put it plainly, and just like that, full stop. You're just a sports guy. Just dealing with external.
Right? You're nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no downside to that. There's no pejorative to that at all. It's just that, I think if you really, really want, because I'm telling you, be a master of a martial art like Tai Chi is way more rewarding than being a jock. But, it's up to you. It's like you may have a different opinion. But it's like if somebody's going to go around and say, I'm a Kung Fu person, and I study Kung Fu, I believe in Kung Fu, I like Kung Fu, high-level skill acquired over time, absolutely 100%. Don't kid yourself, man. If you're not doing the internal, all you're doing is becoming a better jock. That's what Kung Fu means.
Next question. How has your martial training influenced your life?
I told you this story about my first day of doing a Tai Chi class, and how that it really did transform me in that moment in my heart, but didn't transform me in my body. Right? I was still the 98-pound weakling I was 10 seconds before. Right? And it took a long time for me to become the person who could be a world champion Tai Chi dude. And, that's a lot of physical progress and hard work. And I think that what my traditional martial training has taught me is that because point I was trying to make about that is how impossible that seemed at the time. Like I have this idea that I'm going to be a Tai Chi master someday, and I have this body that just doesn't want to cooperate. It's weak, it's undisciplined, it has no flexibility, nothing. And so that seemed so impossible. And yet I just applied the hard work. I didn't even know I had it in me. Right? But I applied the hard work, and it taught me that anything is possible. Right? Because at that moment, take yourself back to 1979, nothing would have been more impossible than the idea that David-Dorian Ross would become a Tai Chi expert and be a world champion and go on to be famous and all this. Like, nothing was more impossible than that idea. Right? And so the fact that finally, in some measure happened, proved to me that nothing is impossible. And along the way, it taught me that there is value in hard work. Hard work is good work, as a person I know likes to say, right? Hard work is good work, and it has a value to it. And there is, in this lifetime, reward for that kind of hard work. And you should try to take on the work that seems the most ridiculously hard. Don't take on hard work that you think you can do. That's not hard work anymore, right? Take on the hard work that you think is impossible.
It's not hard if it's easy.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, man. Right?
David,
I'm going to go into class. I'm going to go into the studio and I'm going to do all my punches and my kicks, because look at how hard I'm working. I'm like, no, that's easy for you. Like, do something harder.
Yes, this is so true. So, with your extensive experience in both traditional Chinese martial arts as well as Wushu contemporary, I have to ask you this. What style is the 24? The 24 form? Because as a Tai Chi teacher myself, I do teach a variant of the 24, right? And I have students come up to me and ask me, hey, what style is the 24? And I generally tell them what my teacher told me when I asked him. So as with your extensive experience, right, especially training in China as well, I have to ask you, what is the 24, sir? What style is it?
Yeah, so the 24 form is a secret conspiracy. No, I'm just kidding. So Mark and I had a big long conversation about this before the interview, and I was like, I'm not going to remember anything I said, so I had to come up with something weird to start off this story. So the 24 form, just to be really short about it, is conventionally called a combined form. So the 24 form was made by, and very, very recently in the terms of the context of martial arts history, right? So this happened like yesterday. It was very, very recent, 1950s, and it was a project set up by the Chinese government in mainland China. So it was, we call it a commission, and they put together this committee of Tai Chi experts and Tai Chi masters from around the country, and they met and they came up with what was supposed to be a short, so that so that somebody could learn it in a relatively short period of time, and simplified, meaning that, a lot of Tai Chi is very subtle, very sort of like you have to know a lot about weight distribution and breath control and all this. It's like, no, let's take all that shit out and just make it really simple so that Grandma Chen can come down to the park and follow it and be able to do it. This is your job. And so they put together this routine, and it had elements of several different martial arts, several different Tai Chi family traditions in there, because there were representatives of those lineages on the committee. And they chose movements and put together this choreography designed to be something that could be done in under 5 minutes, that it could be done anywhere. So all you need is about 20 feet. Is if you're really like stretching it out, if you're really spreading it out, you need about 20 feet of distance to do the whole. Actually, Yeah, about 20 feet. I'm just looking at my studio here, how much room I have. And simplified so that a lot of the nuances and subtleties were taken out. And that's what they came up with, and that's the 24 form. One of the things that is kind of confusing is that there are a number of so many people who have called it the Yang style 24 form, so that creates a lot of confusion. And I think one of the reasons for this is that the style of footwork, the foundational movements that you do in the 24 form, are most like traditional Yang family footwork, foot positioning, weight distribution, width of channel, transitional technique, all those kinds, most like Yang family than any other style of time. So because that's so foundational, then I think people do confuse it for a Yang kind of form, but it's not. It is a combined form. It's a secret conspiracy to blend all styles together.
So in all actuality, it is a combined form, but really it's called the Yang 24. People call that because of the stepping. The footwork is more closer to Yang style than others.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities with many of the other movements. It starts right off with Yema, Fanzhong parting horse's mane, which is you took a snapshot of the 24 form version of parting horse's mane and the traditional Yang family version from the long form. Is like, oh, it's the same movement. I get that. That's why we call it. It's a Yang movement. Must be a Yang routine. But like in China, nobody calls it that. Nobody in China calls it the Yang 24. They just say 24. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's only confusing to us dumb Westerners.
we have to put a specific name on things in order for us to be able to differentiate. I understand. I completely understand. Hey, I'm a Westerner, right? All right, then. Thank you very much for that answer there, sir. So we're going to go straight into the next question, right? This is going a little bit deeper into your psyche, David, right? If you could teach the new generation of martial artists only one thing, it could be technique or it could be philosophy, what would it be?
Oh, it would definitely be philosophy, because technique is easy, right? Technique is easy. You can do anything, right? In 2008, I started to tell you this, told you part of the story. So I trained I competed at team trials in 2008. But my coach and I was in my 50s at that time, and my coach and I had made the wise decision that I would not attempt any of the non-do. I would not try to do any of the jumps or anything like this. I would hurt myself, in training for it. So all I did was very straightforward Tai Chi, and so there were 2.5 points allotted to non-do, and I got none of those points, right? But I got all of the Tai Chi technique points. So I came out with a 7.5, which is like the lowest score I've ever had in my entire career. But it was like, I was happy with it because it was, all they took off was the non-do points because I didn't do any. Right? So technique is easy. Technique is always something you can learn. What is harder, but more worthwhile, is to know that that everything is easy. Everything is easy. You want to heal your heart from heartbreak or anxiety or whatever, right? Everything is easy. Because other humans have done it before. And if they can do it, you can do it. Right? The only thing that makes it feel hard, like things feel so hard, especially when you're young. Right? Things feel so impossible sometimes, so hard. But it's only our resistances that makes it feel hard. We're getting in our own way all the time. Right? The universe wants you to be successful and happy. Right? This is what I would teach to any new student. The universe wants you to win. The universe wants it. It's rooting for you. So if you have any thing in the way, you're getting in your own way. right? Especially those of us who live in first world countries. We have no excuses. Zero.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And that's a perfect philosophy to have. The universe wants you to win. The universe is on your side. And if anything happens negatively, it's because you're tripping over yourself, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that is a perfect way of thinking. Very, 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 very insightful right there, sir. So we're going to move on. How can you be contacted, sir?
So a couple of different ways. Maybe you'll be able to put it in your show notes. Come to my website, taijifit.com, taijifit.com. It's got all the different robots and everything to send me messages or whatever. I'm semi-retired, right? So I have other businesses and I'm not standing up because I'm wearing a really filthy shirt. I've been out in the garage working on woodworking projects and stuff like that. And I also have a YouTube channel called Tai Chi Made Easy with David-Dorian Ross. And you can come and check that out. I'm going to steal the title of this famous book by a Tai Chi master, William C.C. Chen's master, Chen Manqing. But Chen Manqing's book title was Steal My Art. And that's what I want everybody to do. Come over to the YouTube channel, steal everything on my YouTube channel.
Contact information for Sifu David-Dorian Ross will be in the description down below. Also in the description down below will be a link for Fei Yue shoes. If you need a link for Fei Yue shoes, go ahead, click it down in the description down below. Get the best prices, get the best deals, all at Fei Yue shoes. Sifu David-Dorian Ross. Thank you very much for all the time that you have taken to speak with me, sir. It was insightful. It was fun. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. And I have one last thing to say to all the viewers of this. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Now, if you're not subscribed, shame on you. Subscribe to his channel.